I had read that Intel or somebody had bought a 30-second spot for $1.2 million on Super Bowl. I gave that as a reference point, and then I said, how many people watch Super Bowl in America? They said the whole country watches Super Bowl. And I said, we have a similar sport called cricket. Everybody watches it. Just like Super Bowl, everybody watches it. What if I give you 8 spots a day? How much would you pay me? They did all cash and gave some atrocious figure. So what if I tell you I'll give it to you for $2 million, provided you give me a confirmation letter today? 800,000 was my package. I got $2 million. I had never done content. So when I came to Colors, there was a lot of skepticism. So ये sales का बंदा है, इसको content के बारे में क्या आता है? You're only as good as your boss allows you to be, and you're only as good as the team that you have. So when I joined Colors, my predecessor, Rajesh Kamath, had built a very strong team, very strong foundation. I just built on it. This is something that I learned from Mrs. Radhika Roy. She used to say, when we hire, we look for 3 things. We look for attitude, aptitude, and integrity. If a person has these 3 things, everything else can be taught. No matter what people tell you, it really can't be taught. You have to get into the pool.
True.
Unless you jump into the pool, you can't swim. And same thing is with sales. Somewhere it has to be within you that you want to sell. 2 things money can't buy. You can buy knowledge, you can buy education, you can buy this. You can't buy passion. A salesperson has to be passionate. I come from a school of thought, when you go to do a sales, you should go with the whole thing that nahi hua to nahi hua. It's like we go for a naukri. Nahi mila to nahi mila. Nahi to tum, mere ko naukri chahiye. Mere ko deal chahiye. You're showing
Desperation.
When a cat drinks milk, it closes its eyes. It thinks nobody is watching.
Correct.
Advertising works just in the reverse. If you see your ad, you believe that the whole world has seen your ad.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Sell Side Conversations. Our guest today is Raj Nayak. Raj is a person of many hats. He is a media maven, creative thinker, traveler, animal lover in no particular order. Raj was the CEO of Colors TV and NDTV before that. In a conversation with Raj, we'll cover a vast range of topics both in his professional and personal lives. So Raj, welcome to Sell Side Conversations. Hi Raj, welcome to Sell Side Conversations. It's a pleasure having you here.
Pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me over.
Finally we made it, huh?
Yeah, I know. Our stars have finally met.
Perfect. So Raj, you spent about 4 decades in media at leadership roles. We'll just cover your journey, the lessons that you've learned, which I think will be useful to a lot of young professionals and also to people of all walks.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's got something to... I'm still in that learning phase.
You will, they say, never stop learning.
It never stops, and the world is evolving so fast.
Absolutely.
So every time I think I know something, then I realize that the youngsters whom are working with me know more than me. So that's the new world for you.
So Raj, let's start from the beginning. Can you just give us a little background information about your education and how did you land up in media sales or a sales job per se, first sales job? How did that sort of come about?
When we were growing up, jobs were not so easy to come by.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was a different era, and you either became an engineer or a doctor. And the district I come from in South Canara district, you either joined a bank. That's how it worked. So I came to Bombay looking for a job. And those days you used to go through the newspapers, appointment pages, and that's all. Or if you knew somebody, probably you got a reference for an interview. It was like that. And as luck would have it, it took me a little bit of time to find a job. But then I found my first job at Tata Economic Consultancy Services. That was my first job. It was in Ballet Estate in Mumbai. And they had a publishing division called The Economic Scene, was a magazine.
Okay.
And there was a quarterly magazine called The Survey of Industries. And then they had an annual called The State of the Nation.
Okay.
That's how I joined
Media
by default, not by design.
Well, that's a lucky accident to have, right?
Yeah, in hindsight, when you look back, yes, it was a very lucky accident to have.
So how long were you in the Tata group?
I was there for 2.5 years. Yeah.
So that was your first baby steps into
That
the
was my
world of
baby steps.
advertising media.
Yeah, that was my baby steps. And I tried everything at that time. I first indulged in writing. Okay. And I realized I couldn't write for nuts. And I also realized it doesn't pay. And advertising sounded glamorous those days. It was glamorous. And it also paid much more.
True.
So that's how I shifted to advertising. And from there, then I joined a newspaper.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a revolutionary newspaper at that time, in the sense like it was, even though in circulation it wasn't very big, it was the newspaper every elite household in Mumbai city had.
Which one was it?
It was called the Indian Post.
Indian Post. Okay.
Yeah, it was edited by Vinod Mehta,
Okay.
the late Vinod Mehta. And so I joined the Indian Post, and that's how I got into mainstream media, as you would call it.
Acha, true.
And from there was no looking back. I mean, I've been working in publications and then television later on.
So even at Indian Post, you were into the media sales part of it?
Yeah, I was selling. I was, we used to call ad sales manager. So I was a deputy ad sales manager those days.
Did you take any formal lessons in sales?
No, nothing. Everything has happened by default, not by design.
So these are all self-taught skills that you sort of...
Yeah, you just...
learned on the
selling is something that no matter what people tell you, it really can't be taught. Okay, you can give them the fundamentals of it. It's like swimming. You have to get into the pool.
True.
Unless you jump into the pool, you can't swim. And same thing is with sales. I mean, you can hone your skills. You can get better at it. But somewhere it has to be within you that you want to sell.
Okay, we'll come to that
Yeah.
in a conversation. That's a large part of who you are.
Yeah.
So after Indian Post, I think you were one of the founding members or the founding team members of Star in India, right?
Yeah, I worked with one or two publications after that. Yeah, but way back in 1992, Star TV was big. It had come into India, but they didn't have any infrastructure here. It was just after the Iraq war, I think, when CNN used to show all those
Correct.
shock and awe, kind of, and everybody used to be glued onto television. I think that's when satellite television made a quiet entry into India with Bold and Beautiful, Santa Barbara, and things like that those days. And my in-laws lived in Cuff Parade, so they were one of the few. Not everybody had cable television that time, but they had
cable television.
They had cable TV, so I looked at Star TV and I got very excited. I said, "This is what I want to do." And as luck would have it, a year later, I joined Star TV.
So can you tell us about the early days of Star and early days of television in India, right? Because it was still the new kid on the block.
I think I was the sixth employee, if I'm correct, of Star TV in India. It was a liaison office, actually. There wasn't any
full-fledged office.
It used to be called Hutchison India Limited, because Star TV was the brand, but the company in India was a liaison office called Hutchison India Limited, with an office in Delhi and Bombay. And Bombay, they operated out of Embassy Center, from a business center.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And in Delhi, they operated from a small building called, big building, but a small office, probably the size of this room, a little bigger, called Ambadi Building on Kasturba Gandhi Marg. So I joined them in Delhi. And and from there, to see it grow. And I joined as a area sales manager, looking after North and East. And at that time, I used to also look after South as additional responsibility, as you would call it, because they didn't have an office in South. But then I headed North and East and grew from within the company from an area sales manager right up to the executive vice president of the company as part of the Mancom team. But over a span of almost 7-8 years. I mean, I was with the company for 10 years. So, yeah.
What were the notable sort of media properties did you sort of take to market, and can you just sort of talk us about some of those, because it's still early days of television in the mid to late 90s.
Selling that time, in hindsight, now when I look at it, selling was much easier.
Why so?
For two reasons. One was the novelty value. Okay, nobody knew anything about television. So what you told them, and if you were working for Star TV and you came in, whatever you said was gospel truth, because nobody here knew what it is, right? And of course, we had some kind of a best practices learning of what's happening, because we're an international company. So what's happening in other markets and things like that. And by which, I think by 94, 95, Rupert Murdoch had taken over the company. So News Corp is big, Sky is big, Fox is big. And because of which there was a lot of learnings for us as well. And we were able to, if you say shock and awe, we used to wow our audience when you would go to an agency or a client and show some fancy video going, with 100 televisions. Those days, now it all done, right? Those days when you showed that, people would just like, wow, sit and watch the 3-minute video and they would get impressed. You didn't have to do a sales pitch. Plus, it was supply-demand ratio.
Okay.
Because one of the rules that the government of India had at that time was you had to be an exporter to advertise on a foreign channel.
Okay. Oh.
So not everybody could advertise.
Achha, that was the catch over there.
Yeah, and there was something called an XC certificate they had to get from RBI.
Okay.
Okay, so it was a process. It wasn't easy. And but big clients did deals. And when I say big clients, I wouldn't want to name them today, but some of the industrialists sat across the table to do the deals themselves with Star TV.
Really?
Big industrialists.
Can you name one?
It's not fair. It's not fair.
Okay, without naming the individual, can you just sort of talk us through what kind of conversations happened?
I'll tell you some of the brands that were big at that time at Star TV was Godrej. There was Dabur. So these were some of the big brands at that time. Ceasefire. I don't know whether you remember Ceasefire.
Doesn't ring a bell, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell, yeah. Because you're from another era. Ceasefire. So there were brands who were like initial adopters of Star.
But I'm assuming the industry wasn't so developed. The agencies and the clients, they weren't all sort of very
Agencies,
educated.
clients were developed. But it was like, because the novelty factor was so high. So and that happened always in advertising. Now it's probably changed. Those days, if your boss read Time magazine, you made sure that your ads appeared in Time magazine.
True.
It was like that, right? And I keep saying it as a joke, but
They say about the Haji Ali hoarding also.
Yeah, outdoor. You
Outdoor.
used to take hoardings that goes to the MD's house or the CMO's house or something like that.
Correct.
And I use and I say, have you seen a cat drinking milk? When a cat drinks milk, it closes its eyes. It thinks nobody is watching.
Correct.
Advertising works just in the reverse. If you see your ad, you believe that the whole world has seen your ad.
Absolutely.
So that was the thing. So I think, all the wives used to watch Bold and Beautiful, Santa Barbara. So the husband would tell and the CMO of the company would say, boss's wife watches that show, make sure that we have our spots running there. So that's how it started, okay? But it evolved, and that time we had 4 channels actually. We had Star Plus, Star Movies. BBC was on the Star TV platform. BBC came to India through Star TV. I'm talking about television. And it was MTV.
MTV. Oh, I remember.
These were the 4 channels. And then was sports, Star Sports.
Star Sports.
Right. And obviously, Star broke with MTV and launched its own channel called Channel V. And then they broke with BBC and launched their own channel called Star News, which they still, I don't think it exists. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. No, I think they broke off. But that time, NDTV used to do the content for Star News.
Got it.
Yeah. So that was one era. So I've been lucky enough to have worked and sold music, sports, National Geographic, which we got added on later, movies, GC. So I've done the whole spectrum.
Because MTV was still very uppity, and this was in the mid 90s. Did brands still want to sort of associate with the uppity?
You will be amazed. Okay, MTV, of course, those days we had Danny McGill, Sophia Huck,
all those
international VJs, right?
VJs, correct.
And when we became Channel V, we had Ruby Bhatia. We used to do some shows, which Indianized shows called BPL Top 10. Okay, we had Timex Time Pass. I'm just trying to remember. We had a brand called Mesco's Monovaigyanic Show. And let me tell you something. These were countdown numbers and things like that. On DD that time, there used to be a show called Super Hit Mukabla.
The music show.
Yeah, music show. Same thing. This was also prepackaged. BPL Top 10 was similar. The booking was 6 months in advance
Wow,
to
for
buy spots.
6 months in advance.
6 months in advance. It was sold out. Right?
Wow.
I mean, so those were different days,
Different era.
The
Competition.
yield was better.
The competition wasn't as
There was no
fierce.
competition. To
There
a
was no
certain
competition.
extent, there was hardly any competition.
So when did you realize that Star is now getting competition from the other guys?
No, Star.
I believe Z and all came around the same time.
Yeah. No, Z came around the same time. I mean, but Star had an agreement with Z because Star owned 50% of Z. And Star couldn't launch anything in Hindi. There was no compete. It lasted for the next number of years. I moved to sports. I was moved to sports in the sense I was delegated or seconded, to ESPN Star Sports. Because ESPN Star Sports joint venture had happened. I became the VP for sales for ESPN Star Sports. And so between 1996 to 1999, I can proudly say the World Cup was my baby to a large extent.
So really, talk us through that.
Yeah. So it was,
selling cricket must be a different experience altogether.
It's damn funny, that you asked me this question because those days, actually, we didn't do the pricing or anything in India.
Acha.
So there were packages that came from Hong Kong.
Because
we're headquartered in Hong Kong. So there's to be this package that came from Hong Kong, which gave a price, entitlements, everything. And then you're supposed to go and sell it.
So that was ironclad? Could you...
No. So you were given a base price, right? You can sell it up to this base price, but you can't sell it below that.
Got it.
Nobody questions you if you sell higher. And I would like to believe that was my second turning point in my career. But before that, in 1996, I mean, the year I may have got wrong, 96, 97, we had something called the Safari Calypso series. The Safari Calypso series was India was going to South Africa and then they were going to West Indies. It was test and 1 days. Advertisers only bought 1-day matches. There was no T20 that time, 1-day matches. And they only bought India playing matches.
Correct. I think that problem still exists today.
No. That's because they don't know how to sell now. But let me tell you, only India playing matches. And so you would have India playing matches going full, non-India playing matches. If Bangladesh is playing, Pakistan, nobody's watching. If people are watching, but nobody's advertising there. Sri Lanka playing Bangladesh. So that was the thing, right? Australia or whatever country. So this was a long series. And I got a budget at that time to say that we need to do, if I remember correctly now, $8 or $9 million.
In those days.
On the series.
$9
million or $8 million for the whole thing. And we used to do things in style, now everybody is cost conscious. They don't know. I keep saying, paisa feko, tamasha dekho. And this is from the advertising sales part. I say because you have to schmooze your clients, you have to impress them, you have to wow them. It's all about perception, right? It's about perception. You do, wow. So what we did was we used to do this very well at Star. We had a party in Delhi, in Bombay, in Bangalore at the Oberoi's. Bangalore was Vinsabana. And we got all the cricketers. For those days, Javagal Srinath, Kumble, Venkatesh Prasad, Dravid. I'm just trying to remember some of the teams. We would get them there for the party. And so all the clients would come because all the cricketers are coming. Now you can't afford to get the cricketers.
Correct.
Those days
it's possible.
And the sports channel we had access, and it was easier. They weren't so corrupted as they are today. I wouldn't say they're corrupted. I think they earned their stripes today. But it was much easier, right? So we used to do this, and we used to have an evening where they would tell anecdotes. So it becomes some kind of an entertainment. Then we would do a small presentation or a audiovisual about the event coming up. And that time Oberoi's had worked with us. We had organized South African and West Indies food. So he had ostrich fillet
Oh
and
my God.
crocodile steak being served.
Okay.
Right? So it was an
So you guys went to
experience.
that extent of planning.
Yeah,
The cuisine was
planning,
planned
the
out.
look, the feel, and everything. And the company would spend money, top dollar. They never scrounged on this thing. Okay, so you you didn't even ask what the budget is. That was how we worked. As long as you brought the revenue back. So we did that, and that time I realized no matter what calculation I do, there's no way we can write the revenue. Right. Unless we fill inventory on all
All the matches.
all the matches.
Non-playing matches for India.
It won't work, no matter, because beyond a point you can't go.
Correct.
You can't raise the spot ad rate, right? So I decided unilaterally to sell only the entire series.
Okay.
Either you can buy the entire series or you don't buy the entire series.
Acha.
Sponsorship, associate sponsorships. Then we had packages, platinum, diamond thing, whether it's 2 spots and match or 4
Whatever.
spots and whatever it is. We had that thing. But you can't break it.
You can't
right?
cherry
can't-
pick.
No cherry pick.
No cherry picking.
Not one client picked it up.
Oh really?
And this was 5 days before the event.
Oh my God.
And my boss that time, I remember, was very upset with him because 2-3 agency heads called him and said, who do you have as your sports head? He's committing suicide. So now I had gone and said, we are not selling. I took a positioning, right? My immediate boss at that time supported me. That made all the difference. My top boss was a little, he didn't know, but to give him credit, he said, it's your funeral. You are accountable, but I'm giving you the authority. If you screw it up,
You got.
you're gone. And then my super boss from Hong Kong came and we had a dinner at the Taj.
Okay.
And he noticed that there's nothing being sold. And there are 5 or 7 or 10 days to go for the event, whatever number of days, I don't remember now. And I remember going to the washroom at the Taj in Bombay, the loo, so we are standing next to each other in the loo, and he says, he's an Australian guy, said, let me tell you something for nothing, boy. I don't know what you guys are doing. I hope you got your strategy right, because if this goes southwards, well, you can say goodbye to your job. I remember I was staying at the Taj at that time. I used to live in Delhi. I went to my room. I don't know whether I should cry or whether I should laugh or whether whatever. Now it's also faced. How do I go back and change? Because I've had fights with these people, nothing doing. I said, you have to have the courage and the conviction. And I was very confident that there's no way an advertiser will not buy cricket. And for me, the confidence also came at that time from what Mark Mascarenhas did. He went and signed Sachin Tendulkar for X value at that time, and everybody said, can't happen, right?
Absolutely.
So he was an inspiration to a certain extent. And so I said, okay, let's see. 3 days before event, we started filling up. 3 days into the event, we were sold out.
Wow.
Right? That was one turning point in my life.
So it was basically who blinks first.
Who blinks first? It was. And so
You have to hold your nerve.
you have to. But that's
what leadership is about, right? You got to hold your nerve under pressure.
it's leadership, it's conviction. And you knew that was the only way, because either way I'm not going to meet my target. So, I say, डूबना है तो समुंदर में डूबो ना, तालाब में डूब के करोगे क्या? That kind of a thing. But my real turning point came in 1999.
Okay.
When the packages came from Hong Kong, by which time I had proved my mettle. So I could do what I wanted. I could pick up the phone and say, listen, this client's beta is reaching you tomorrow. I want the promo to start tomorrow evening. Otherwise, it used to be like 2 weeks' time for the promo to go on air and all those kind of rules and regulations. But now you have authority in the system because you have delivered.
The certain weight in the system that you have now.
Of course. And so that time in 1999, I remember the packages came for $800,000.
Okay.
sponsorship. And the presenting sponsorship associate sponsorship was up for $800,000. And that time, there was so one of the things started at that time was they had a presentation in New York where they invited advertisers there to tell them about Star TV in Asia.
Okay,
to all the big agencies there. And in New York, if 50 people come to an event and a presentation, it's a hit, it's a success.
correct.
Right here, if 400 people come, we say, still not.
Still a happy.
Yeah, exactly. So that was it. And what the company had done very strategically and cleverly, they took one person from each country so that so we were sitting on high stools. It's like a press conference. So you had somebody from India, from Taiwan, from Hong Kong, from Japan, from UAE, to show that we cover Asia.
Okay.
And we have experts from. So if you have a Q&A, the experts from each market.
Can
it
talk
was more
about it.
Perception position. So I was told to go for that, right? I was being sent because it was World Cup coming and things like that. So I told my boss, I've never been to the US. This is my first trip. My brother-in-law lives in LA. So can I
make a detour?
Book my ticket via LA. He said, yeah, just find some work there and do one meeting there. Because you also will feel good that you did not just go on a junket. I said, okay. And LG had their global ad agency outside of LA.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't remember the name now. So I fixed up a meeting. Because my idea was not to sell. My idea was to tick mark. I've done a meeting.
Correct.
Now it sounds all very funny. And so landed in LA. My brother-in-law picked me up. And then if you don't know how to drive in the US, I mean, you can't drive in the US unless you know how to drive there. And that was my first visit. So I'm not going to drive anyway. On this, right? So he said, this meeting is outside of, it's somewhere close to Burbank or somewhere there. He said, I'll do one thing. I'll take leave tomorrow. I'll come with you. I'll drop you at that place. And I'll hang around in a mall or something. And no mobile phones those days, right? Okay. So he said, after an hour or so, I'll come to pick you up. I said, okay. And I'm still thinking whether I had a mobile or didn't have a mobile. I can't remember now. Anyway, so I went. We had this discussion with the agency at that time. And there were 3-4 people sitting. And I had read that year, I'm talking 1999, I think Intel or somebody had bought a 30-second spot for $1.2 million on Super Bowl.
Okay.
Something like that. So that was my reference point.
Super Bowl.
Yeah. So I
the
said.
Biggest news, in America.
So I asked these people, I remember whoever were there, I said, I gave that as a reference point. And then I said, how many people watch Super Bowl in America? They said the whole country watches Super Bowl. And that time America's population, if I'm correct, was about 225 million or something like that. I said, you know what? That's the population of India's middle class.
Correct.
Then.
It was only started 200, 250 million.
Yeah, that time. It was India's middle class. And I said, we have a similar sport called cricket. And everybody watches it. Just like Super Bowl, everybody watches it. What if I give you 8 spots a day for whatever, 46 days or 54 days, I don't remember the days, but whatever days, number of days, how much would you pay me? They said, no. I said, take a wild guess. They did all-cash and gave some atrocious figure. So what if I tell you I'll give it to you for $2 million, provided you give me a confirmation letter today? I had gone to do a tick mark, right? I was having fun, actually. I sat down, they drafted a letter.
Really?
I got a $2 million. 800,000 was my package. I got $2 million. I came here. And obviously they informed their headquarters in Korea and things like that. When I came to India, the head of LG, very dear friend now, no longer there. Sadly, we lost him in COVID.
Okay.
a gentleman called Rajiv Karwal, called me to his office, and he was fuming.
Fuming.
I can't use on your podcast, I don't want to use any foul language, but he said, "What do you think, we are idiots? You've gone there and sold something which we wouldn't pay even half that rate in India, less than half." I said, "But they bought it." He said, "I'm the boss in this country.
Huh.
I'm cancelling it."
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
So I said, "Okay." And I had faxed it to Hong Kong and everything. And I was like suddenly hero in the system. So he said, and the agency was sitting there. Lintas was the agency that time.
Okay.
So I said, "Okay."
Everybody's super pissed with you.
No, they're all sitting there. And I said, "Okay." Because I knew now I had the two thing. And those days, whatever LG did, Samsung did. Or whatever Samsung did, LG did. Whatever Hero did, Bajaj did. Whatever Bajaj did, Hero did. Whatever Coke did, Pepsi did. Whatever Pepsi did. So I knew that I had this letter. I had to go to Samsung and I have to show them that they would buy it. It was as simple as that. As simple logic as that. Whether they would or not, I don't know. But that was the man. So, and I said it also. "Oh, don't buy it. I've got Samsung waiting there. You don't want to do it? Don't do it. No problem. No hard feelings." And I left. I went to reach the gate.
Huh.
The Lintas person at that time, I'm trying to remember, came to call me back saying, "Rajiv wants you back."
Okay.
I went back. He said, "Raj, yaar, this is not fair." I said, "See, you told me you're cancelling it. You tell me, no, you want to look good with Korea, I'll help you." So he said, I said, "I will add some bells and whistles to make the deal
Even sweeter.
sweeten." Those days, WWF never sold. Formula One never sold. NBA Game of the Week never sold in India. Okay, some of these properties never sold. And some non-India playing crickets also. In the sense, when I say non-India playing cricket, where India is not even participating. So I added a few spots here there because it's inventory. The way I used to look at inventory is like a plane taking off. Right? Once a plane takes off, empty seats mean nothing.
Absolutely.
So as well make people feel happy. So I filled. So he had renegotiated the deal. For him, it was a tick. He had renegotiated the deal. I was very happy. My inventory on different sports looks. So I used to go and tell, "See, LG is buying." So I used to go sell it to other clients. So they become a loss leader to that extent. So that was, and then because that gave me that confidence, every client in India, sponsorship was sold for $2 million. Every client. Because that was the benchmark now.
That became the benchmark.
And if I remember correctly, I can't say it with certainty, before 1999, they must have bought it. Was the first time Hindustan Lever, being India's top client at that time, paid $2 million and bought the sponsorship of cricket.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
that, if I am correct, that was the first time Hindustan
You
Lever
raised the bar for cricket.
actually came into here.
So you raised the bar for cricket in India forever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, after that, IPL has raised it even higher.
But
It's a different. Yeah, but at that moment, it was a...
So that you believe was a turning point in your career?
In my career within Star, for sure. Yeah,
That
that's what
gave
propelled me to take over the entire sales and
that
marketing.
gave you the visibility in the organization.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
those things.
we had a conference in Bali or somewhere and I got a standing ovation.
Oh, wonderful. Nice. So after Star, you moved to NDTV, right?
Yeah.
And NDTV, Star Sports, from sports you moved to news category.
Yeah. No, Star, I moved to Bombay. I used to head the entire sales for all the Star channels at that time.
Okay.
All the channels. So, and then I quit the organization to launch one channel.
Which one was
From
that?
13 channels to one channel. That was NDTV.
NDTV.
With Dr.
The news channel.
Yeah, Prannoy Roy. And then we launched English, Hindi. NDTV Profit was our third channel. And touchwood, we did very well because the equity of NDTV was, I believe it still is. Maybe now news channels have lost its sheen to a certain extent. But the brand equity, what Dr. Prannoy Roy built, I would say it would have been, at that time, if somebody had measured it, among the top 10 brands in the country. Across sectors.
Yeah, it was an institution by itself.
It was unbelievable. And Dr. Roy had one condition to me. He said, there'll be a thick wall between editorial and commercial. I mean, advertising. Okay. And he was like that. I mean, no matter how much a client is spending, I couldn't get even one thing done in the show.
So the wall was...
very thick, very thick.
Very
of
thick.
course, later, as long as it was not being seen because the client is giving money, but if something made sense, I think I had built an equity where I could go and say, I think we should do this. And he would say, yeah, it makes sense. And that's a different thing.
So Raj, in your tenure for about 10 years in NDTV, what kind of revenue did you drive? Because I'm sure when you started, the base was low.
When
By the time you exited
NDTV,
yeah.
when I joined, it was zero. I mean, because we started it. I remember at one time our revenues had gone up to 650 crores.
Wow.
Across the three channels, but mainly NDTV 24/7, which was a driver channel, about 450 crores, 450, 470 crores, if I remember correctly.
This is about 15 years ago.
Yeah. And high yield, everything. And I would say to a large extent, we defined Aaj Tak, Hindi. At that time, I'm talking about, there's a gentleman called GK. He defined the pricing for Hindi news, and I believe NDTV defined the price for English news.
English news.
And what happens is when the leader defines the pricing, everybody is below that. But if the leader sells less, then that becomes a glass ceiling for everybody.
True. So there was a substantial difference between NDTV and the second best.
Oh yeah. NDTV, we were by far ahead of
By
everybody.
miles ahead.
Yeah, in many which ways. But in the business section, I would say CNBC. They were by far. But of course, they had history behind them, and they've been in global brand and things like that. Plus, they were there for a couple of years before.
So you've seen the evolution of the news, English news genre in India, right? So,
Don't ask me about it now. If they dig any more deeper, they may find oil. It's really sad.
It's sad, yeah.
It's sad. So I don't want to say anything, but I've stopped watching news channels.
Yeah, but I don't think the English
and I feel very sad for my friends.
Don't even command those premiums now. That era is over now.
They're struggling. They're all
that era is over of news.
They're struggling, but you're yourself to blame. You're going to shot yourself in the foot. Tell me, which news channel do you trust today? When I can speak for almost many channels even at that time, but at NDTV we had a line, experience truth first.
Ah, okay.
Rely on us, we rely on experience. That was our baseline. We meant it.
A motto.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was all about trust. But today, let's move on. And I'm not saying other channels weren't at that time, but news by itself, you trust it. It's like, if you're a reader of Indian Express, what Indian Express tells you is the truth. If you're reading of Hindu, what Hindu tells you is the truth. And if you're a reader of Times of India, that's how it is, right? But today it's all very blurred.
And today I find monetization for news channels, even digital or television or print, is extremely difficult. The advertiser and agencies no longer trust.
One is trust, two is, you devalued yourself. See, if you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect others to believe in you?
True.
Right. You gone and sold it, you gone and filled inventory, you sold it cheap. So then the beauty about the business is once you sell it at a price, that becomes the benchmark.
That is the... Yeah.
That's truth.
So Raj, after NDTV, you launched Aidem Ventures?
Yeah.
And that was, can you just talk about that part?
I think even the people have tried it before as individuals, but it was probably the first of its kind in India, a sales and marketing company representing broadcasters and media owners. And we were selling television, digital in a big way. We won the MSN account. We used to handle MSN in India exclusively. And we had pitched it against Group M and those days Media Turf and everybody, and we won it. And we used to represent NDTV, of course, all channels, Sahara Network, News 24. So we had a couple of things. And we had 220 employees with 5 offices in the country. So I would say we were the first professionally managed media sales company in this country of that scale and size, which is not belonging to any as an independent. But 2008, I think, the crisis that happened, things went belly up, markets crashed, and then we had our own challenges.
Got you. But clients were okay with outsourcing their key revenue functions to third party?
Yeah, and with no minimum guarantee.
No minimum, okay.
No minimum. But also it came from trust. And they felt that time that we were well positioned. We had the right team, right people. We had a crack team. All of them are doing so well today, in their
Yes, I
respective
remember
jobs.
once somebody mentioning that you had because in digital, it's all about clicks and impressions.
Yeah.
The ad is seen or not. I think you sort of try to pioneer the idea that let's keep the ad fixed.
Not pioneer. I pioneered and we succeeded. Let me tell
talk
you.
us about that.
That is very interesting. When there's this gentleman called Rajneesh. He used to handle head MSN in India. He's ex-Times Internet. So he met me one day and he said, yeah, we are, our industry is so, we are not able to crack. I think there's a lot of potential. You should do digital. I said, मेरे को digital spelling नहीं आता है. मैं digital क्या करेगा? He said, come for one of our IMAI meeting. That time IMAI, there were few people. I went for that meeting. And at that time, I think there was Satyam, India Times, Yahoo.
Sifi, yeah.
Sifi, that's Sifi. Yahoo, Rediff, and MSN. I think there were 6 or 7, like this main, independent kind of thing. And the total revenue was some 150 crores or 200 crores or something like that. Pittance. And FM radio, which was its second launch at the time, was over 600 crores or whatever it is. And I said, you've been here longer. And you have a medium where you got video, audio, you can and text, and you can do all this, right? And you can watch it anywhere. I said, you people are doing something wrong. I'm joking. I did not want to upset people in that room, but somewhere I said, something we need to think about it. But his intent of taking me there was just for me to get a feel. So when I came back, I said, you guys don't know how to sell. I said, मेरे को दे दे, मैं बेच के दिखाता हूँ. Okay. So he said, some of our guys are coming to Cannes. Will you also come to Cannes? I said, I was anyway planning to go. He said, I'll set up a meeting for you there. Just do one meeting with them. So I met this people there, and Alex, I think, was the name. Alex Stewart or something like that. I can't remember the exact name. So he and 2-3 people were there from. So I said, I would like to pitch. This is my background. I used to work for Star TV, and now I work for NDTV, and then we set up this sales house. And so he said, okay, great and all. And so that time I told him, I had gone, I was anyway going to Cannes. I come from a school of thought, when you go to do a sales, you should go with the whole thing that nahi hua to nahi hua.
Okay.
Otherwise your body language, everything will change. You have to go with, it's like we go for a naukri, nahi mila to nahi mila. Nahi to tum, mere ko naukri chahiye, mere ko ye deal chahiye. You're showing desperation. Nah. So I had gone like that. So I told them, guys, you don't know how to sell. So they said, why do you say that? I said, before coming here, I went and met 4 clients. And I actually went and met 4 clients. 3 clients, and I visited a college. I went to a college in Delhi. And it was close to NDTV office. So I went to the college in Delhi and I said, how many of you have read the newspaper this morning? Almost 50% people, or maybe even lesser. I said, how many of you have watched television today? Whatever the number. I said, how many of you those days Hotmail was a big thing.
Correct.
There was Hotmail. I said, how many of you have used Hotmail or have Hotmail account? Every second hand went.
100%.
Almost. And I said, wow, this is the thing, right? So this is what I told them. I said, you people don't know how to sell. And I had gone to 2-3 clients. So one client was a shoe client, local client. And I went to the client. I don't want to name them for whatever it is. And I said, आपने कभी digital में advertising किया है? I said, नहीं. I said, क्यों? He said, एक बार किया था. उन्होंने आके रिपोर्ट दे दिया कि इतना इम्प्रेशन डिलीवर किया. किसी ने देखा ही नहीं. मुझे भी पता है, मैंने खुद नहीं देखा. He said, जब मैं नवभारत टाइम्स में ऐड डालता हूँ या कहीं पर लोकमत में डालता हूँ, I can touch and feel. I can tell my dealer it's coming. Dealer has seen it. My daughter studying in London can see the ad. So I said, then I asked another client. He said, पता नहीं रे शॉशलिक पॉशलिक बोलते हैं, सब दिमाग खराब करते हैं, समझ में नहीं आता है. I also didn't know what it meant. So I came back. I told these people, just because you guys are techies, you don't know how to sell, right? So they said, so why don't you pitch? I'm cutting a long story short. We had a longer conversation, but they said, why don't you pitch? So the pitch happened at the Oberoi's in Bombay. So Rajesh was on my side. He was like, because somewhere he felt he came from a media background, so he felt that we could do the job. And he also wanted his targets and his revenues and things like that. So he said, one round happened, second round, you better come prepared. So we went for the presentation, and obviously they had called 3-4 agencies. We were the only non-agency being there. All digital agencies were there. And so when we walked into the room, so they said, okay, we'll take a quick break. You guys can set up. So I said, we have nothing to set up. We had walked with me and my colleague, Avinash Kaul, who's now with Network 18.
Correct.
We had walked with our 3310 mobile phone or whatever it was. We had walked in at that time, or BlackBerry, I don't remember. So went there and they said, you don't have a presentation? We said, no. And I was very honest to tell them, I don't know much about your business, but something tells me that you guys are somewhere, it doesn't stack up. Something doesn't stack up.
Correct.
I can tell you one thing. I understand media. I understand the landscape of this country. And I understand, when I say I meant we, my team. We understand clients.
The ethos of the clients.
We understand clients.
Correct.
And if you ask me, who is your reference? Normally people will say, this is my reference. We would say, pick up the phone and speak to anybody in this country. That would be our reference. Who's in the sales and marketing business? We won the pitch on that.
Just a conversation.
And more importantly, no presentation. And more importantly, they said, so will you give us an MG? I said, no, we don't have money to give you an MG. They said, but so-and-so is giving an MG. I said, fine, but we can't give you an MG. So we got the business. The challenge is not in getting the business. What do you do once you get it?
That is another.
So there was a guy called PK. PK used to head the content of MSN at that time, and Rajesh was the business head. So we called for a meeting. We went and we called the whole team, met in retreat for ideation.
Achha.
And what's it called? Retreat, you know where it is? Mud Island.
Mud Island.
So there I asked PK. KP, not PK. KP. PK is Group M. KP. I said, Krishna Prasad. I said, KP, can you, in your MSN, put one window box and show live TV? Show ads there? He said, yeah. I said, how long will it take? He said, 1 week. I said, do that. So he did it and we called it Box TV.
Okay.
We called it Box TV. So done. Then we changed the thing. We printed a brochure this big and we had a press conference. We called for a thing. And we said we are now changing the style how internet is being sold. So all we did was the front page was front page, sports page was sport. I replicated newspaper. Why say this one, that one? And we call it ear panel, whatever it is, front page solars.
All of those things.
Page, similar kind of a thing. That's how we made a thing to show. This is what you can buy. This is what you can, showing this is where your ad will come.
Go through a leaflet and sort of see.
It's a book, proper high,
book.
125 GSM paper. So very well done, classy, big one. So they can't even throw it in dustbin. It won't fit in because it's so big. So we did that. Again, revenue went to 0. And agencies said, this is not going to work. Nobody will buy. And what we did is we sold NRI time.
Achha.
Prime time. What is it called? Drive time. So we had time band. So you could buy time band. And that time band, your ad stayed continuously.
Achha. Okay.
Your ad stayed continuously.
So between the 6 to 8 in the evening,
your ad stayed there.
Okay.
So you can send a thing to your dealer saying, MSN mein mera ad aa raha hai, 6 to 8 p.m. mein hamara dekho. So you can send it to your daughter in London. She can see, everybody gets to see the ad.
Correct.
And we priced it accordingly. Same thing, zero, right? So, agencies, there were very few digital agencies at the time. And 2, 3 controlled, they came, nobody is going to buy. I said, don't buy. I said, you know what? For Microsoft, for MSN, this is peanuts. They have given me a mandate. They said, Raj, for the next 2 years, you have no revenue, no problem. But this is how we want to sell it. So it doesn't make any difference to me. They spend more money on flying to India and going back than the revenues we are writing from here.
Correct.
So they're like, so again, same thing. It took us about 3 weeks or a month. It changed the way digital advertising was bought. The revenue went up 3 times. In fact, when Steve Ballmer came to India, I hosted lunch for the industry at the Taj.
Oh, really? Okay.
Taj Lands End, okay. So the MSN asked me, Raj, can you host the lunch? Steve Ballmer is coming. And I hosted the lunch, and all the people were there, all the clients, agencies, Sanju Beek Chandani, all these people were there at that time. So we did that, right? And then the leadership team at MSN changed, and somebody came and said, oh, this is how we sell it globally, remnant inventory, pendant inventory, and ruined it. Ruined it. Okay. And I used to have this, and my whole learnings came from TV channel. The learnings from TV channel, initially they used to say, oh, your inventory is going khali. Give it cheap. Fill up the inventory. And my thing was, for a thing in a 1 hour channel, 1 hour program, those days, we had a 10+2 rule. So 10 minutes of advertising, 2 minutes of promos. I said 10 minutes of advertising means for all practical purpose, let's assume it's 10 apples. Right? I can sell all 10 apples at 1 rupee. I'll make 10 rupees. I can sell 5 apples at 2 rupees. I'll still make 10 rupees. And there is an opportunity for me to monetize the balance 5.
Correct.
That was the thinking. So I always said, remnant inventory means nothing as long as I'm meeting my numbers. But they changed it, and then
the world changed, and the whole
I had moved on.
paradigm.
I had moved on, yeah.
So Raj, I think both the instances that you mentioned. One was the World Cup in 1999, where you priced it at $2 million, and also this MSN example that you gave. Both these examples, I think one thing stands out is your conviction. That you conviction and thinking out of the box. Because everybody's thinking linearly, and you've sort of thought out of the box, and those are the things that have sort of helped you in good stead.
See, either you have to be better than them, or you do something different to stand out.
Correct.
So we had to do something different. That's the only way you would stand out.
Perfect. Then you were also with Colors for many years.
Yeah, 8 years.
8 years. That's totally a GC sort of a channel, entertainment channel.
Yeah. Colors,
How was that experience of Colors with Big Boss and a lot of high-ticket properties over there? I'm sure a lot of revenue at stake over there.
I had never done content.
Acha.
I had never done content. So when I came to Colors, there was a lot of skepticism. So ये sales का बंदा है, इसको content के बारे में क्या आता है? Okay. And my way of, when I took the job, I was, and I didn't go looking for the job or something. The job came to me, In fact, 15 days before I took the job, I didn't even know that this job existed. They reached out to me, and again, to cut a long story short, it just happened. Someday in my book, it'll be there, how it happened. But
okay, tell us now, give us a primer of how it happened.
I was sitting with this friend of mine called Sai Kumar, who was then, I think he was CEO or CEO of Network 18. And and he said, what we are looking for. I was telling him something. We had met for something else and something, again, it's a long story. And then he said, and I was going through a little bit of a not so great time as an organization, not because of anything, cash flow problems. Entrepreneurship, cash flow is I learned it very late in life. Okay. And so he said, we're looking for a CEO for Colors. So I said, I'm bloody, I've got 220 people to look after. There's no way I can desert them. He said, nahi, at least go and meet people. So I said, okay, one condition, book my ticket via, I was supposed to go to New York, book my ticket via LA. so that I'll see my daughter and come. My daughter was studying in UCLA.
Acha.
So I thought free में ticket मिलेगा. मिलके आता हूँ. I'll get to, again, same concept. Go with the attitude that you don't need the job.
Correct.
And I was going with that. I was not planning to going for the job. I was looking at the free ticket at that time. And I said, okay, let me go. He calls me 2 days later and he says, hey, have you got a visa for London? I said, yeah. The meeting shifted to London. So now I've said, no. He said, no, go on a Friday night. Saturday morning, you'll reach there. Nobody will know. Take the Saturday night flight and come back. Everything will be organized. So the tickets came home. I went business class, landed. There was an A8 Audi waiting for me at the airport, which was at my disposal till the time I came back. They had booked me at the Langham Hotel in Regent Street. So in style. And my meeting was not in any office or something. It was over lunch on the River Thames.
Acha. It's an informal sort of meeting.
It was informal meeting. And then I came back. Then there was another call, con call with Bob Buckish, who's now is he still? Yeah, maybe. The Paramount Global Head. I mean, Viacom Paramount Global Head. Next moment I know they made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
Oh,
so but the challenge was not that. The challenge was, what do I do with 220 people? And I can say I'm very proud. I outplaced 100 people with a 20% salary increase in 15 days.
Wow. 100 people?
100 people.
That's amazing.
And another 120 people, I sold the company with the condition that they will not sack a person for the next 12 months.
Wow.
For me, that was my biggest accomplishment in my life. I had to move. I was not willing to move. My colleagues told me, boss, if you move, you can earn some salary, you can pay some here so that we will survive. Otherwise, all of us are going to drown. That was the situation. I had a OD facility with Bank of Baroda for almost 8 crores. There was a debt on my head. So it was a little challenging time. But for me, the thing was, not one person was on the street. Wow. Everybody had a job, and more than 100 people were outplaced with a 20% salary hike.
Wonderful.
And even when I gave the company to somebody, I increased their salary by 20% when I'm...
In your projections, then you sort of...
Yeah, give it. And
understood.
So for me, that is the biggest achievement of my life. Again, coming to colors, like I said, you're only as good as your boss allows you to be, and you're only as good as the team that you have.
True.
So when I joined Colors, my predecessor, Rajesh Kamath, had built a very strong team, very strong foundation. And I just built on it. So a lot of credit goes to him that he built the foundation for me to then... Yeah, I mean, I added the floors. I gave it more paint. I obviously, people don't remember. They only look at the building. They don't remember who built the foundation.
Correct.
So, Rajesh, if you're listening to this, I want you to know that I was truly honored to take over from you.
Wonderful. So, at Colors, can you talk us about some of the mega properties that were, I think Big Boss is one of the biggest ones.
See, our thinking was very simple. And when I pick up the job in Colors, let me tell you, like I said, you're going and taking up a job which you've not done.
Correct.
Right. All my life I've done sales and marketing. I've not done content, nothing. I looked at it completely differently. I said, I'm joining Colors. I will think I'm going to Harvard to do a management course in general entertainment. Because my contract initially was for 3 years. Okay. If I fail, I still got the stamp. I've gone to Harvard. If I succeed, then I can do my PhD, I can do my master's, I can do my PhD.
All of those things can happen.
All of those things can happen, right? And that's how I took the job. And I ended up doing master's and PhD.
Wonderful.
So the thought process was, when I came in, we were, the channel was going through a bad, turbulent time at that time. At one time it was number 1. It had gone down. When I came, it was like number 4 or whatever. I don't know, 4 or 5 or something. So I was only given one brief saying that you have to bring it to top 2 within a certain period of time. And Revenues was a big challenge. So I think that would come naturally to me.
Correct.
Right. This part was a little difficult, but again, Raghav Bell. Of course, we had Viacom board, but Raghav Bell was the person who, like, for all practical purpose, took decisions. I mean, if he approved something, the board approved, right? Extremely professional, gave you complete freedom. I don't think anybody can succeed if they don't have autonomy.
Absolutely.
You have to have trust in your leader. You have to give the person autonomy, hold him accountable, but give him authority. And that is what Dr. Roy did with me. The Murdochs, one thing I can tell you, no matter what people say, working with Star and Murdochs, great experience.
Really? Okay.
Amazing.
Give us an example.
Complete freedom.
Complete freedom.
Yeah. We had a budget. I'm just giving you for example. Okay. I had a trade budget of $2 million.
Okay.
Trade budget.
For trade marketing and
trade marketing, $2 million.
$2 million.
I've flown people to Washington, D.C. and back for dinner. We've flown people to World Cup in the box. We've taken them for Pavarotti dinner, and you could do what you wanted as long as you wrote revenue. They gave you complete autonomy, complete freedom, complete trust.
Is it missing now?
And they rewarded you as well.
Is that same
I think it's
ethos missing now?
I think it's missing now. Everybody is cutting costs. They don't trust their own people. There's so many politics. But we had that freedom. And you addressed everybody by first name. There's no sir culture.
There was no sir culture, G culture.
Nothing. I mean, it was a different world. I don't know now because I don't no longer work in the business. But from what I see from outside, we used to do offsites. But offsites not for just taking people out. You meet your target, we'll go to Australia. You meet your target, St. Petersburg, New York. I've taken people. But my management supported me. And I said, if we don't meet the target, we won't go. But if they achieve, all the boxes are ticked, whether it is in rating, revenue, positioning, whatever, then why not? And that kind of motivation now doesn't exist. But I think it also comes from the leaders. I used to fight with
I think in the last 10, 15 years, the media industry has undergone a big change because
I would say in the last
print,
5-6 years.
The TV print are no longer the leaders in the category. Digital is the leader. And then digital, again with Facebook, Google, the media spends have changed now.
Yeah, but again, tell me something. And I say this, and if my friends in the TV industry are listening, and what has the TV industry done to sell a narrative on how impactful and how cost-effective TV is?
You think that is a message?
As an industry, what have we done? Nothing. We are all fighting against each other. Right? Digital by default has, by default, the narrative is out that we are great, they are this, they can do that. But what has the print media or television media done to sell a narrative as a community?
As a united front.
Yeah. Television is still very powerful, let me tell you.
It is.
It is more impactful.
It is 100%. But today television is being replaced by YouTube and all the other.
But it's not the same. I'm not saying YouTube doesn't have reach. Of course, YouTube. But right now, the truth is, the impact of buying a big property, if you advertise on KBC or a Big Boss or even a regular Sasbo show, now it's all available because it's also available on OTT and things like that. But the industry didn't do anything to that extent. You have to, and you didn't evolve either. It's the same thing. You have not evolved.
So they are only to
I don't want to comment because then, it's easy when you're not in the chair to comment. So I don't want to negate or pull somebody down. But it's not just me, but everybody at that time. Because if you innovated, I innovated my competitor. So it was a competition. Everybody wanted to do better than the other. No, nobody is thinking out of the box. They're doing more of the same.
Correct.
Doing more of the same.
And it's sort of not moving pushing the envelope further.
Yeah, you have to, advertising sells on two things. One, it sells on actual numbers. It also sells on perception. Otherwise, the pricing you give for IPL doesn't really justify the pricing that you're giving, but it sells, right?
How do you build perception? Can you give an example for our listeners, where a perception is built. You gave the example of the 1999 World
Yeah,
Cup.
World
cricket.
Cup. You know what we did? You know what our campaign was? First of all, that's where I got the idea of when we did for MSN that brochure. We printed a big thing. Everything we did was supposed to be big. And you know what our line was?
Huh.
It just doesn't get bigger than this. As simple as that. It just doesn't get bigger than this. World Cup. And obviously we got all the players from different parts of the world. You know, I don't know whether you know, we did Apple Sing. There's a guy called Apple Sing. You know, we created characters, Kumble, we got all these stars. We paid them top dollar. Those days it wasn't top dollar. Now it's very top dollar. But we got them. And so we had somebody from West Indies saying, I'm coming, you know. So we did the WWF kind of a scenario we created.
The marketing,
cricketers.
positioning, perception building
It
was
perception,
top-notch.
outdoor. You know, it's a question of... see, cricket doesn't need marketing. If you put it on, say, Ullu channel also tomorrow, if it's India is playing a game,
There will be people to watch
people will
it.
find out where it's coming and go and watch it.
Correct.
Right? But the reason why you build perception is because it helps you sell.
True.
What I call for a sales team is you can go and fight the war, but you need artillery support. You need air cover.
So Raj, tell me in your experience, what are the top 3 things that make a good salesperson in media sales? Top 3 or top 4, whatever. You know, who would you sort of...
First is your integrity, your reputation. Your reputation walks 10 steps ahead of you, both good and bad. So if you build a relationship with your client, he becomes your brand ambassador. I remember one client I was going for a meeting, who's now a very dear friend of mine. But when I went for the meeting, and many meetings like that, when I would go for a meeting, half the deal was already pre-sold. Because I was very clear in my mind, always under-promise, over-deliver. I walked out of deals, knowing fully well I can give more, but I walked out of it. Because what happens is when you tell the client I'm giving you 2, and then even if it's 1.99, he's an unhappy client.
Correct.
Okay, so if you know you can give 2, you promise only 1.8. Walk away from the deal. But when you promise 1.8, then you give him 2, he's happy.
The satisfaction level is much higher.
Under promise, over deliver. That's one. Don't be scared to walk away from a deal. You can't. I walked away from 100 plus crore deal. I mean, HUL, that time, my friend, I'm forgetting his name, in my office, I walked out of a deal.
100 crore deal.
100 plus crore deal.
Really?
And this is in 2000. In 2000, I walked out of a 100 crore deal. They had even come with a press release copy saying that first biggest deal in Asia and all. So looking at my name with the top boss of HUL at that time, I got very excited. Logic told me I should close the deal, right?
Correct.
But I didn't, because my loyalty was to the organization, to what I'm supposed to do. But I could have walked away. I could have done the deal, but I didn't. What happens is when you walk away from a deal, not for the sake of walking out, as long as it's you're being fair to the client as well, okay? But don't walk over me. I'm being fair to you. I will try and do more for you. You earn respect.
True.
You know. Otherwise, there's no respect. People won't value you as well. So you have to believe in what you're having, what value it is. Don't undervalue, but don't oversell as well. The client, end of the day, what happens? I used to tell everybody that, people used to go saying that you're in the satellite business, I'm in entertainment business, this business, that business. It all sounds very nice. We were in the repeat order business. My job was only one thing. As a salesperson, I'm telling. As a CEO, I'll tell you something else. As a salesperson, I had only one job. To make sure that my client comes back to me again and again. So as a CEO, my job was similar thing. I still believe I was repeat order, to bring the viewer back, to bring the advertiser back. That's it. That's your job. Right? So I used to tell my clients, once you give me the RO, you can put your feet up in the air. Now the onus is on me.
To deliver it.
To deliver it, because I'm a very greedy man. I want more money. And I know I'll get it from you if I deliver. So you can chill.
So just to summarize, one is integrity. Second is don't be fearful to walk away from
Under
a deal.
promise, over deliver.
And under promise and over deliver.
Yeah, and be ready to walk away from the deal. And don't lie.
Don't lie. That's integrity.
Integrity. Yeah.
And you believe sales as a skill can be taught, or it just sort of
No,
what are the 2 or 3 things that
it can be taught. It can be taught, but the person should have it in them. See, 2 things money can't buy. You can buy knowledge, you can buy education, you can buy this. You can't buy passion.
Yeah.
A salesperson has to be passionate. That's one thing you can't buy. Hard work is, again, it comes through passion. I don't believe in the 70 hours work culture and all. I don't believe in that. I'm a firm believer. You can work smart. As long as the work gets done, it doesn't matter. And there may be time when you may burn the midnight oil as well. There's no hard and fast rule, right?
True.
But the thing is, you have to be passionate and integrity. These 2 things money can't buy. So when, and this is something that I learned from Mrs. Radhika Roy. She used to say, when we hire, we look for 3 things. We look for attitude, aptitude, and integrity. If a person has these 3 things, everything else can be taught.
True. That also is it makes sense. So Raj, now that you're on your own, can you just talk us about what is the House of Cheer? You started a company called House of Cheer. It's a very unique name.
Yeah. By the way, my Twitter handle is Raj Cheerful.
Raj Cheerful, yes.
With the double L. That's how the name House of Cheer came.
Yeah. So sort of what is...
When I started House of Cheer, we said create, curate, consult, because I really didn't know what we were going to do. Okay, because I had to do something. And the idea then was to get into the content business. But COVID struck. I didn't get into it. And in hindsight, the best decision of my life. Okay. So we pivoted and something which I always had at the back of my mind was I quit my job because I was not happy.
Okay.
Nothing to do with my bosses, nothing to do with the organization. But I was not happy for whatever reason. And that's why I quit.
The Y-18 job you quit.
Yeah. And I quit at the peak of my career. And my organization has been excellent to me. I don't think in corporate India anybody's got the kind of send-off that I've got. They've been very nice and everything. But somehow, maybe it was having been there, done it for donkey's years, doing the same thing. I was not finding joy, whatever it is. And then I had a corner office. I was getting a fancy salary. I had the title, adulation.
All of those things.
Everything, right? And that's when I realized that there may be many people like me who are not happy. And you'll be surprised. Now we do research as well. We publish reports. You will be amazed how many people at CXO level, every level, are unhappy. You'll be amazed. But I came from...
Unhappy personally or professionally or both?
Professionally. Personally, I wouldn't know. That's not my... Professionally. But I came from certain privilege. I had a roof on my head. I did not have any EMIs. My children's education had almost finished. So probably I could take that chance. So a lot of people can't do that. Their children are studying. Their EMIs have to be paid. So even if they can't just quit a job.
True.
So and also the age. I was at the fag end of my career. As we say, retirement career kind of thing. I don't think I'm ever going to hang my boots till the last day. But I don't think there's something called retirement, because you need to have a purpose in life. But people are unhappy. And I felt if they can do something in this area, then I think So I set up a business in happiness.
Oh, so that was the genesis of the House of Cheer.
Yeah. No, House of Cheer happened because my Twitter handle happened. And then this happened. It all, like I said, everything in my life has happened by default, nothing by design.
So what is this happiness report? Can you talk about that?
So we built a tech tool which is underpinned by neuroscience, and it measures the happiness quotient of employees and in an organization, thereby the health of the organization. And then from there we moved on. So we now certify companies as the happiest places to work. Okay. And it's all gamified. It's done with deck of cards, all tech enabled. And then obviously the Every individual in the company gets a report telling them where he or she stands in context to the
There's
organization.
also another institution which is called Great Places to Work.
Yeah, so we are their biggest competitors today.
Oh, really? Are you okay?
Yes. Yeah.
And I believe that's a US-based company. Where
Yeah,
they
we are
sort of
Indian. We are Atmanirbhar.
Wonderful.
But we are global, let me tell you that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we are already in 17 languages.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, including all Indian languages, including Urdu. We are in German, French, Arabic, Mandarin, Portuguese.
Oh, super.
Yeah. Portuguese or Spanish, I don't know, one of the two. But obviously we just got one client out of Dubai. We're now getting a client out of Singapore, but slowly, but we will get there. We will get there.
So,
And it's 100% self-funded.
oh, wow. So, Raj, as we try to wrap up this conversation, a couple of questions I have. One is, what advice would you give to a mid-level professional who's sort of, in his mid-20s, let's say mid-30s, and he's got another 20, 25 years of runway ahead of him? What advice would you give him or her how to plan the career?
This planning career and all is.
Or some.
And I not plan my career. It is very
Or
easy.
let's say what skills to develop.
Let me finish this answer.
Okay.
Yeah. In hindsight, the beauty about success is you can retrofit it. In hindsight, I can say I did this. That's how I became CEO of Colors, and I did this and all that. I didn't even know. I was very happy getting my next promotion. Okay. Today, Sachin Tendulkar's mom can show Sachin Tendulkar with a bat when he was 5 years old, holding a bat and say, मुझे पता था मेरा बेटा क्रिकेटर बनना. किसी को पता नहीं है किसका तकदीर कब खुल जाता है. ये हकीकत है. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Right? The trick is, at every stage in your life, and this is what I tell the youngsters, every stage in your life, first be grateful for what you have. The fact that you wake up in the morning and you're alive itself is a huge thing. Then be grateful. One girl came to me in my couple of years ago, and she said, I'm not happy with my job and this, I want to quit. And this is just during pandemic or pre-pandemic. And she's quite senior. I said, would you be happy if you didn't have a job? By the time she left my room, her attitude had changed. She was walking 4 inches taller. It is context, it's perspective, right? So that's one. Be grateful. 2, don't focus on career planning. There's always, do your job, what you're doing, to the best of your ability. Say that if I'm going to be a carpenter, I'm going to be the best carpenter in this world. If I'm going to be a chaiwala, I'm going to be the best chaiwala in this world. If I'm going to be a sales guy, I'm going to be the best sales guy. At that level, whatever best you can do. Because let me tell you one thing, no boss will want to lose a good employee. No organization will want to lose a good employee. Okay, if you're good, success will come your way. You don't have to plan your success. Just do what you're doing. Do it to the best. Automatically, the doors will open for you. But they will tell you, plan your career, do this. Just do what you're doing best. You'll stand out. And if you stand out, there's no reason. The organization has to recognize you. If they don't, somebody from outside will recognize you.
Very true. Perfect. What are the things that you, in hindsight, looking back, you think you missed out or you could have done better? Any such thoughts that, at various points in your career or in your journey, you could have done better? Or if you're taking
again, like I said, in hindsight, it's very easy to say, because at that time you took that decision because you thought that was right for you at that time. So to go back and say that was a mistake is wrong. The only time when I felt is when pandemic struck and it went on. I said, oh shit, where have I landed myself? Because I didn't know what's happening tomorrow, right? I said, if only I had known the pandemic is happening, maybe I wouldn't have quit my job. I'd have quit it after the pandemic.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Raj. It was a great conversation with you.
Yeah.
We could keep on going on, but
I know I can keep on going on. There's so much to talk. Yeah,
we'll have to maybe schedule.
I hope it was worth your while to have me on this show.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are watching, Raj Cheerful is my Twitter handle, Facebook, Instagram. Please follow me.
Perfect.